So it's Sunday at Combat Fitness, and Team Bambera Boxing just finished their sparring. Today I'm going to talk you through what a sparring day at a boxing gym is going to look like, what to expect, what equipment to have, what kind of methodology and mindset to approach what I believe is the most important training day of the week with, so that you can have success when you fight. So for our team, we do one hard sparring day a week, that's on Sundays, and we do one light sparring day a week, that's on Tuesdays. On our Sunday sparring day, things are more long form. You're gonna work with people that are approximately your size and approximately your skill level, and you're gonna be in here for 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds, so that you can see how investing in the body or setting and breaking patterns early is gonna play out later in fights. Everybody rolls in around noon. Sparring usually starts around 12:30. Everybody's gonna spend 30 minutes doing their mobility work, warming up their shoulders, their back, their neck. You can reference my video on the mobility work and strength training work you should be doing daily for boxing and sparring workouts if you're looking for a place to start. Some gyms are gonna throw you into sparring on your very first day, and it's gonna be sink or swim. They're gonna find out real early if you're in shape and if you have a proclivity to being a good boxer. Me, I'm a little more withholding with my sparring as a coach and a gym owner, and I encourage guys to be coming to the gym, coming to classes, and training consistently for a couple months before they attempt what's called a vetting. The vetting is just 4 rounds of sparring with me, and think about it like a tryout. It's not something that's about hazing. It's something that's about me making sure that they have the skills to solve any of the problems they're gonna run into in a boxing context. They should know how to problem solve and defend themselves on the outside, the middle distance, and the inside if they're gonna have success, and they're gonna be able to do mindful, focused, growth-centric work with their teammates. We always encourage people to work at a technical pace where they can make adjustments and they're not scared to try new things and take chances. Now, teammates that have been working with each other for a long time are going to build rapport, and they can go a little bit harder, but we usually save our true hard sparring for when we're doing cross-gym sparring or smoker events. Ideally, when you come in for a spar, you're hoping to get matched with somebody who is similarly skilled and similarly sized to you, so that you can both push each other to become better fighters. Depending on the turnout, that's not always the case. Today at Combat Fitness, we had a lot of our competitors fighting this past weekend down in Lowell, Massachusetts. So today, we got a huge spattering of people. Some are very experienced, some are less experienced, some are very big, some are very small. I think it's really important to remember that if you're approaching sparring with a growth mindset, you should be able to work with anybody and improve your game using them. If you're working with somebody that's much smaller than you, good. Then you want to work being on the back foot, jabbing, and challenging yourself to not let that person build momentum and establish their inside fighting game. If you're working with somebody that's much taller than you, you should be working on getting in on them, trying to cut them off, trying to attack the body, trying to be proactive with your defense. If you're working with somebody that's much more experienced than you, then you should maybe be focusing on your defense, focusing on not taking risks, focusing on keeping yourself as safe as possible as they try to build momentum. Don't give them opportunities to pot shot you, to hit you clean. Stay focused. And if you're the most skilled person in the gym, then you need to find a way to gamify your sparring and hold yourself to a higher standard. Maybe you're working at a distance that you don't feel comfortable with, so that you can challenge yourself. Maybe you're only using your left hand, or maybe you're choosing to only use one specific form of defense so that you can handicap yourself and keep your sparring competitive. In the absence of the things that you are very good at, you allow the things that are still developing room to grow and fill that space. So, when you come into sparring, there are some things that you must have that are not negotiable. In our gym, at our team, it is not negotiable that you have signed the liability waiver for Combat Fitness, that you have coaches' either permission or supervision to do the sparring. It is not negotiable that you have a mouth guard, headgear, and sparring gloves. These things you must have. have. You cannot spar without a mouth guard. You need headgear because you got to fight in it, so you got to get used to the size of your head and the visibility. And sparring gloves specifically. This is a common misconception. Sparring gloves doesn't just mean 16-ounce gloves. It means gloves that are specifically designed for sparring purposes. They're not designed just to protect your hand like a bag glove or a training glove. They're designed to protect your hand and your opponent's face from abrasions and cuts and nicks and scratches and scrapes with the Velcro. The next list of things are things that you should have. So, you should have your appropriate amateur boxing license, whether that's through AIBA or whether that's through USA Boxing. Most boxing gyms, insurance is going to be through those umbrella organizations. You should have boxing shoes. They're your toes, but I've seen a lot of people injure their feet if they don't have boxing shoes or boxing boots on. You should have hand wraps. Again, they're your hands. I've seen a lot of people injure their hands if they don't have wraps. And you should have a foul protector. Again, it's your risk not to wear a foul protector, but you should have one. And something that's not common knowledge in boxing circles or fight circles is that that foul protector, the reason it's so big and the reason it wraps around with cushion isn't just to protect your groin, it's also to cover and cushion your hips so that your teammate won't accidentally punch your hip bone and break their hand. Every gym and every team that you train with is going to have a different set of sparring rules and sparring etiquette. I always make a point to talk to the coach or whoever's responsible for supervising sparring when I travel to different gyms and spar there, because some things that some gyms do as commonplace might come across as rude if they're not the norm working with a new team. So at our gym, our rule set is as follows. Sparring partners are your teammates, not your opponents. You're supposed to go soft to the head and hard to the body with no bad intentions. So, what I mean by that, you can punch quick and fast at your opponent's head, but you shouldn't be trying to knock them out. You're trying to land clean hits, you're trying to not get hit. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're going to your teammate's body, you want to remember that there's no lasting damage from hitting somebody hard to the solar plexus or hard to the liver. And your teammate should learn these lessons early and quick, because it only takes one well-placed body shot to put them down for an 8 count and end their fight. Cost them the win. So if you're being a good teammate and you can dig hard to your opponent's liver or hard to your teammate's solar plexus, you should make a point to do it. That's a good lesson with no long-term ramifications that's going to make them better in the long run. All of this can kind of be encompassed by saying there are no winners and there are no losers in sparring. We're all here trying to get better. And if anything, all of your sparring with your teammates should be competitive, because that's going to make you better. That's going to help you to improve. If you're going in there and you're leaning on your A game and beating up all of your teammates, then you're probably not improving the way that you should be if you want to continue your development as a successful martial artist. Most gyms are going to tell you not to bleed on the canvas or bleed all over the ring ropes, and they're going to tell you to clean up your own messes if you do. And at our gym, to help to combat this and get ahead of these injuries, we always encourage our athletes to cover their headgear, their face, their shoulders, their gloves with either Albolene or Vaseline. That's going to make them more slick, it's going to mean less friction, it's going to mean big hits slide off of you, and you're less likely to get cut and you're less likely to bleed in training. And a rule that I find is sometimes enforced, sometimes not enforced, that can lead to some bad blood or sparring etiquette issues as you travel to different gyms, is whether you fight out of clinches or not. This is always a question I ask teammates, or always a question I ask whoever's supervising sparring when I travel. Do you fight out of clinches? Some gyms, you'll get tied up in a boxing context and one person will just tap on the other person's shoulder, low back, or put their hands out, and they will separate and start boxing again from the outside. At my gym, I always encourage people to fight out of clinches. No matter where you are, no matter how you get tied up, there is a way to fight out of that clinch. But it's important to remember, if somebody expects you to break and you keep fighting, they're going to feel like you're being a bully. So it's always important to communicate this before the spar. I'm over here just giving you folks a stream of consciousness, talking my way through what a usual sparring day looks like. But the big takeaways here are, I think that your sparring day, your long-form sparring day, is the most important day in your training week. Every single time that you get here, you get a chance to test and to see and to feel if all of the techniques that you've been drilling and training throughout the week actually work against a fully resistant opponent. You find out the things that you're good at, that are locked in, and you find out the things that you're struggling with, and it allows you to set a game plan moving forward for what you should be working on during the week. This is really how you should structure your solo training. You do your sparring, you identify weaknesses, you address those weaknesses throughout the week, and then you try again and see if that you have corrected them. And if you haven't, rinse and repeat, and if you got something new, work on something new. You can really waste a lot of time coming into sparring with a big ego, using a lot of athleticism, speed, power, aggression to problem solve. You can get a lot of meathead rounds in, and you can learn very little. Or you can take extreme accountability, you can put your ego aside, you can give yourself room to grow, you can make your sparring with every person you work with competitive, and you can allow yourself to outwork people that have been in the gym spinning their wheels for a long time. This will give you success in the long term, treating this like a martial artist. Don't treat your spars like fights, that's what fights are for. Don't treat your teammates like opponents, that's what opponents are for. Treat them as a group of bodies and a group of styles and looks that are here to help you improve. If you use these tools correctly and you approach sparring with the correct mindset, you'll have long-term success when you fight.